sorry, that's for a Democrat show.
Let me know when you're ready.
No matter what the technical difficulty is, this man is a professional. He goes all the way.
What you represent to them is freedom.
Was an extremely great conservative commentator. We're tearing it up on Wednesday night. This is awesome. This
will allow me to retort.
Well, this is Jersey Joe for the Reaver of Common Sense show. 8 p.m. on shrmedia.com.
Actually, I just totally screwed up. This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show. And welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense show. I am your host, Jersey Joe, and I'm trying to make sense out of the senseless. The Jersey Takeover is here. We have expanded to 2 hours every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to watch a broadcast, go to Reaver.1 and click on the live stream. And I hope you do, if you want to support SHR Media, if you want to help support the show, go to Reaver.1 and pick yourself up a fucking kick-ass t-shirt. These are custom-made, just the same as the bracelets are custom-made to order. I'm very agitated today. This whole bullshit that's going on. Just pissed me off more and more. I got this idiot. I'm in a little Twitter war going back. And of course, I'm a bigot and all that crap. Because I will not bow down to, we shouldn't split up the families. Our immigration laws are wrong. They're immoral. He didn't like that I asked the question, should we give sanctuary cities to murderers, rapists, and robbers? Oh my God, how dare I compare? No, what I'm comparing is that they broke our laws. Period. We didn't ask them to break our laws and come in this country illegally. So no, we are not splitting those families up. We are not. They are splitting their families up by coming here illegally. It's that simple. They broke our laws, not us. We have some of the most relaxed immigration laws. Hell, go into North Korea illegally. You'll be lucky if you don't get shot on sight. So sick of this whiny-ass bullshit. Complain about everything. You don't like the immigration laws, that's fine. Then have them changed. Hell, there's a lot of laws I don't friggin' like. But I'm not going to go out there and whine and put safety pins. Oh my God. My friend's dad's going to get deported. It's not fair. Well, he shouldn't have come here illegally. It's that simple. Don't break the laws. And unfortunately, breaking laws have consequences. And yes, sometimes that might mean some kids get sent back. Yes, they are, as of right now, American citizens. I don't believe just because someone comes here and pops a kid out, that kid's automatically an American citizen. Their parents were criminals. And if they get deported, the parents do, the kids have to go back. And when they turn 18 and they are a legal adult, then they can come back. Otherwise, I piss off with this whiny-ass bullshit. And you know what I'm also laughing about? This media hysteria. You want to see the hypocrite that is the media? They are freaking out about Trump's team because, oh my God, he's only appointed 2 people so far. Most presidential candidates don't start appointing people till 6 weeks after the fucking election, people. Hold on, we got BZ calling. You there, BZ? Hello? Ruh-roh. BZ?
Jersey Joe, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir, we are here. Oh, I'm just ranting and raving about the media and a couple other things that's got my aggravation level right up. I'm pissed this morning. Ugh.
Jersey Joe, if I can I call back? Apparently you can hear me, but I'm not hearing you much at all. Can perhaps I hang up and try another line?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Because at this rate, with this line, the conversation will not go well. I'll be talking to myself, essentially, which is no fun for listeners. Let me see if I can get you on another line, sir.
Okay. All right, there we go. This whole he hasn't appointed. I mean, seriously, some of the administrations never appointed the first people till 6 weeks later. 6 weeks after the election. He's already appointed 2 people. He's putting a cabinet together faster than most presidents do after 6 weeks. Oh, my God, he gave the press the slip. Oh, he's not going to be transparent. All right, let's try this again. Take 2. Are you there, BZ?
Now you're talking.
All right, how you doing, sir?
Excellent. So tell me about the temperatures where you are right now. Is it starting to get a little cooler?
Yes. We've been hitting about the 80s during the daytime, and at nights we've been getting down to the 50s or 60s.
Okay, all right. Because I say that because where I've got I used to work down in Sacramento, and that's where my wife lives, but I've got a house that's actually up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and that global warming, that terrible, official, heinous, terrible, reprehensible global warming. Well, a few nights ago, I got global warmed on, and oddly enough, it resembled snow.
Oh, jeez.
So, how terrible.
I know. I'm kind of speechless today. Not speechless, but preoccupied with the annoyance of the media and all this bullshit that's going on. My annoyance level is very high. Between this I got in a Twitter idiot war with this jackass. I'm a bigot now because I believe that families who break the laws, come across the border, should be deported. And it's not the American government that is separating families. It is those that break the law. And I'm sorry, I don't see a difference whether I go out and rob a bank, murder, rape, whatever the goddamn charge is. There should be no sanctuary cities. There is no difference. Yes, the degree of the punishment is different. But if you break the law, there's consequences. And don't blame the government because you broke the law. I'm getting sick and tired of that shit. I don't see a sanctuary city if I go and rob a bank. And I can make a case for robbing, and I'm not going to rob a bank. Let me make that clear. I'm not going to rob a bank. I'm using this as an example. I can justify robbing a bank for the love of my family to have a better life. All the same reason they say justify these people coming into our country illegally. I can make the same argument for robbing a bank.
Well, the argument is so ridiculous, but it's fostered on the left. And the argument is this: you can pick and choose which laws that you wish to obey. Well, the precedent has already been set. Now, it depends upon your political bent in terms of which laws you want to obey or disobey. And it's really odd that you should happen to speak that today, because there's a particular little quote by an individual who, oddly enough, lives, he's an instructor at Fresno State University. here in the gloriously downtrodden state of Fornicalia, where I am a minority. So Caucasides are, of course, minority in California, but the gentleman's name is Victor Davis Hanson. I don't know if anyone happens to know of that particular individual, but he's a remarkable scholar and also wrote a book called Mexifornia, which is rather prescient in its insight. It came out about, right now, probably about 8 years ago or so, maybe even 10 years ago. And Victor Davis Hanson happened to write about the sanctuary city situation. He said much of the rural West opposes the Endangered Species Act. Now, can Wyoming, for example, declare that federally protected rats and bugs are not protected inside its state borders when such pests obstruct construction of dams or highways? That's picking and choosing what law you wish to obey.
Yeah, I didn't think of that one either.
Many conservatives oppose federal restrictions on gun sales. Could Oklahoma City declare handgun purchases within its city limits free of federal firearms statutes? Well, it's picking and choosing which federal statutes you wish to obey. Perhaps Little Rock could ignore a Supreme Court ruling and announce that gay marriage is not legal within its jurisdiction. Well, on what rationale would liberals in California object to such nullifications? That neither state nor city had the right to ignore federal law or to obstruct the law enforcement duties of federal officials. He brings up an excellent point. Chief Charlie Beck of the LAPD has said that he's not going to enforce the laws. Rahm Emanuel of Chicago has said he's not going to enforce the laws. Not Bloomberg, the other gentleman that's the mayor of New York City, whose name escapes me at this point.
That's Bloomberg. Bloomberg is mayor of New York City.
He's not going to enforce federal laws. This is, if you want to talk about a populist revolt in terms of Trump, well, I submit equally that there's a populist revolt with regard to sanctuary cities.
Yep.
They're a blatant violation of federal law.
Well, what they just did, and not to interrupt, those governor or mayors and police chiefs, they just broke federal law because they are promoting illegal aliens coming into the country and protecting them, and that is directly against U.S. Code 1324, one of the subsections. You cannot verbally encourage illegal immigration, and that can get you anywhere from 5 to 10 years in prison.
Well, oddly enough, I happen to know exactly which USC code you're talking about on that. They are a violation of federal law, but leftists want to claim, they want to pick and choose which laws that they're going to obey today or tomorrow. Now, if persons on the right, or with regard to another topic, shall we say, should just exactly decide what laws that they're going to obey, the hue and cry would be tumultuous. It would be amazing. There's a guy named James Walsh. He's a former Associate General Counsel of Immigration and Naturalization Services, and he quotes that exact same section. And 8 U.S.C. 1324 deals with those persons who knowingly conceal, harbor, or shield undocumented aliens, and that clearly could apply to officials in sanctuary cities and states. Well, if you enforce it, like all of the other laws, if you enforce it, I say to all the leftists who want to pick and choose which laws that they want to obey, just be honest. Leftists won't be honest.
Yeah.
They'd rather be hypocrites. And here's the honesty of it all. Jersey Joe, why don't they just come out and say, let's not have any immigration laws at all. Let's simply take down the laws and open the borders. Now, number one, that would please the hell out of libertarians. Big L, which is why I'm not a libertarian. Big L, I'm a small L libertarian, because once you do that, Then the other libertarian thing that I grandly disagree with is it's hot and cold running drugs 24/7 whenever you wish. And having been in law enforcement, I've seen the consequences of stupidity like that. Well, repeating it all over again, California, the state where I live, I'm behind enemy lines in California. Of course, they just approved recreational marijuana because, dude, why would you not want to?
Exactly. It's like giving people the choice. Do you want to get a raise? Do you want to raise minimum wages, which is giving a person a raise? Who wouldn't vote yes for a raise? Oh, no, man, I think it's a bad idea. Let's not give ourselves a raise. If your boss came to you and said, do you want a raise, would you say no?
Well,
it's the same thing with the pot, you know. Oh, do you want to go have some fun and smoke pot? Oh, hell yeah, let's go smoke pot. Let's get high. Oh, go ahead.
It's like, and I don't remember the person who made this quote, but when basically the electorate finds and discovers, as obviously they have, that they can vote themselves largesse, which means that they can raid the Treasury whenever they wish if they simply vote for it, then when there's no obstruction to doing that, why wouldn't they? Because you pander to the lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator in all of this, the running thread through it all, are votes.
Yeah.
This is a naked attempt by leftist, progressives, Democrats, and whatnot, to keep themselves in power in perpetuity, forever, so that there can be no pushback. You know, let me ask you, sir, and all the listeners and the people in the podcast that are listening right now, you have to ask yourselves, what is this all about? You have to step back and look at the large picture. And the question, when you ask that, what is this for? What's the whole purpose? The purpose, I believe, is only one: to make sure that Democrats have all the power, all of the voices, and to stomp out oppression. So because of that particular idea, like yourself, you have to ask yourself another question. Well, where is it that conservatives are strong right now? I submit that they're strong in 2 points, in 2 places. And that's on the internet, and that's on the radio.
Yeah.
You can say perhaps a bit on TV, but no, in my opinion, that would be wrong. So, if you've identified possible sectors where conservatives are strong, and given that you want to do something to ensure the continued strength of Democrats, leftists, etc., what 2 areas are you going to attack? You're going to attack the ability of the right or conservatives to communicate. Well, how do conservatives and the GOP and the like communicate? Well, generally we communicate over the internet, and we communicate over radio, terrestrial radio. Well, we kind of know that terrestrial radio is going away a little bit, and we've got a piece of the pie on cable news and whatnot. So then, having identified those 2 areas, where are the 2 areas that leftists are concentrating, that they want control? Well, you saw recently ICANN got turned over to an international body, and Obama stepped away from control of the internet and decided that it would be a wonderful idea to remove that control from the United States and give it to an unelected body, so to speak, an appointed body that doesn't have a First Amendment, that doesn't have a Second Amendment. So because those are the areas of power, you can expect that those are going to be the areas that are going to be attacked. You've seen that by the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. You know, the people that sit on these commissions, the FEC and the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, which regulates the airwaves, they have commissions in which mostly leftists sit on these boards, and they waver just about 50% On each of these boards, there's one individual who happens to be a Republican on each board that has kept, essentially, me, you, if you write a blog, from having to have a license to blog.
Can I interrupt real quick, BZ? Can I jump in?
Yes.
Did you notice Google and Facebook have done a list of sites that put out false information? And all it is a list of conservative sites. Breitbart, Drudge, the Blaze, it goes on. And all it is, because it's supposed to be to do away with the false information being spread during this past election. So they put together a list of all these sites that you shouldn't listen to, and it's all conservative sites. I don't think I saw one single, and it's out to try to silence the conservatives, and that's all it is trying to silence the conservatives, because liberals cannot win on truth, facts, and reality. Because if they told the truth about what they're doing, they would never win a goddamn election from here on out.
Well, leftists and Democrats are operating just like good defense attorneys would. And that is this. If you lack a cogent, cohesive, common sense, rational, proportional argument, then you go on attack mode and attack the individual. When you lack rationality, you make it personal, and then you try to eliminate the ability of that person to fight back. In this case, with regard to leftists, it's removing the ability to even push back. That's why, for example, at the top of my blog, it says, I am pushback. Well, what does that mean, for example? What it means is, I'm tired of being pushed. So if I'm tired of being pushed, I'm going to push back. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, now that we're sitting in the catbird seat, so to speak, and it's going to be interesting to see if we actually wield our power, but elections do, in fact, have consequences.
Yep.
Now SCOTUS finally has the ability to remain relatively unmolested. I use air quotes on that because who really knows, depending on who gets nominated for SCOTUS. And now that we have the House and the Senate, there's a fairly decent chance, depending upon the filibuster, which the Democrats wanted to eliminate, but now may conveniently use with regard to SCOTUS. Now we have that particular ability. But it's when they don't like your verbiage, when they don't like your speech, when you disagree with them, they simply want to cut you off at the knees so that you don't have the ability to speak at all. And that's why I say these two particular commissions, this is where the focus of power is going to be pointed, I submit, at this point. The Federal Election Commission and the Federal Communications Commission. Because here's the insanity of what you just said. These people seem to think that the Drudge Report is this terrible right-wing site. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Drudge Report, Matt Drudge, hasn't written shit in probably 15 years. He was the guy that broke the blue dress and the semen stains on Monica Lewinsky's dress. That, ladies and gentlemen, was back in the 1990s. That's how long it's been since Matt Drudge has actually penned an article. But that's what got him the notoriety and the ability to start the Drudge Report. Leftists don't have any idea about that. They think that Matt Drudge sits in some kind of a concrete bunker somewhere with a cap of tinfoil, writing poison pen pieces about themselves, about leftists. The Drudge Report is an aggregator, boys and girls. He doesn't write any of the stuff that's on there. All he does is collect articles and change them and retitle the titles of the pieces themselves. The pieces won't write themselves. They're written by people all around the world and all around this particular country. He doesn't write a thing.
Yeah.
All he does is arrange them. And you want to hate the Drudge Report? Well, you better hate each and every one of the journalists whose articles appear in the Drudge Report itself. And that's that's, Jersey Joe, how brain-glazingly, stultifyingly stupid that argument is. But that's what leftists want to do.
Well, let's take the big news yesterday was Donald Trump went to dinner without the press. His administration is not going to be transparent. Well, hold on. I don't remember hearing this back in 2008 when Mr. God of the mainstream media, President-elect Obama, ditched the media to go out to dinner after being elected. He went and had some, as they said, family time, and that was acceptable. But
can you hang on just for a second? I've got to go yell at some dogs.
It's acceptable when Obama did it. But now that Trump's done it, oh my God, it's the end of our republic. It's the end of the way this modern-day government works. And that's right there is showing.
Well, it's just, again, they get to pick and choose what they want to believe.
Yeah.
Politico, for example, it's not known to be a right-wing rag, so to speak. It leans rather left. Well, how about an article by Josh Gerstein and Patrick Gavin on April 28th of 2010, 6 years ago? The first period of President Obama. And the article is entitled...
Let me interrupt you. We're actually late for a break. Can we hold that till after the break? No, that's my fault. I didn't realize we were that far into it. Time's flying. We're going to be right back after this commercial break. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense right here on SHR and HB Pundit. We will be right back.
Listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Now, at Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our Gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. And we also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's Bigfooted enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Listening to Reaver of Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying coffee is stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch the Southside Mutt Show with its hosts, the Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe and Crash, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Radio, where we will be digging up the dirt.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you miss a show, don't worry. You can catch the replays two ways, rebootingliberty.com or the Reaver of Common Sense.com. While you're there on Reaver of Common Sense, don't forget, drop in your email and keep up to date on everything going on, or click the like button on the Facebook widget. Now on to the Reaver of Common Sense.
Listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. And with me today, I got BZ. And we are trying to make sense out of the senseless. The Jersey Takeovers here. We have expanded to 2 hours every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to watch a broadcast, it's very easy. Go to Reaver.1 and click on the live stream. And if you want to support the show and support SHR Media, go to Reaver.1, click on the shop button. It's so easy, even a liberal can do it. So, I interrupted you. You were getting ready to talk about something, and I had to interrupt you for the break. So, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I like that. It's so easy. Even a liberal can do it. You were talking about how the press call went nutty when Trump went to dinner, and I draw two specific distinctions to the table, and I predicate everything mostly in terms of my bottom line is logic, fact, common sense, rationality, and proportion. And those five aspects are things that the left completely don't have and that they avoid. Now, if Trump had decided that he was going to go and attend something that had to do with his administration, or if it was something that were inherently political, or it was a particular meeting with an important individual or collective, or if he was flying somewhere to a different state or to a different nation and decided to leave the press corps behind. Yes, I'm sure that they'd pinch Twinkies over that one. Ladies and gentlemen, there's two different things here: politics and personal life. Hello, get over it. He went to dinner without you. Boo-hoo, cry me tears. That's absolutely ridiculous. But everybody is saying, well, this is absolutely unprecedented. The non-transparency of Trump. No, it's not. As you pointed out in 2008, and there's an article in Politico, which is not a right-wing organ by any strength of the imagination, on April 28th of 2010, 6 years ago, Politico Josh Gerstein and Patrick Gavin wrote the article entitled, Why Reporters Are Down on Obama. So 6 years ago, one of the enduring storylines of Barack Obama's presidency, dating back to the earliest days of his candidacy, is that the press loves him. Most of you covered me. All of you voted for me, Obama joked last year at the White House Correspondents Association dinner. As an aside, for me, stepping away from the article, exactly what Obama said is absolutely right. 95% of the newsrooms throughout the fruited plain, they're all leftists in there. They'll never tell you, but look at any poll. Look at how people react and where they place their money. Newsrooms in the United States are committed to the left. So when Obama said, most of you covered me and you all voted for me, he knew he had the bully pulpit, and he knows he has the bully pulpit with the press. Then the article continues. But even then, only 4 months into his presidency, the joke fell flat. Now, a year later, with another correspondents' dinner, Saturday night, likely to generate the familiar criticism of the press's cozy relationship with power, the reality is even more at odds with the public perception. This is very interesting, Jersey Joe. The article says this. Obama and the media actually have a surprisingly hostile relationship, as contentious on a day-to-day basis as any between press and precedent in the past decade. Reporters who cover the White House say they were bitching about Obama in 2008 and 2010, 8 years ago and 6 years ago, just as you say. Reporters say the White House is, oh, that's too bad, it's thin-skinned, controlling, eager to go over their heads, and stingy with even basic information. What? Are you trying to tell me President Obama is not transparent? Well, he proclaimed it. He said his was going to be the most transparent administration in the history of the United States. Wait a minute. Here's Politico telling us that he isn't quite there. They're saying he goes over their heads. He's stingy with even basic information. Yeah. All White Houses try to control the message. But this White House has pledged to be more open than its predecessors, and reporters feel it doesn't live up to that pledge in several key issues. And then they go into delineate it. Day-to-day interaction with Obama is almost non-existent. Do you think? And he talks to the press corps far less often than Bill Clinton, or even George Bush did. Clinton took questions nearly every weekday on average. Obama barely does it once a week. A second point. Here we go. The ferocity of pushback is intense. A routine press query can draw a string of vitriolic emails. A negative story can draw a profane, high-decibel phone call. Or worse, some reporters feel like they've been frozen out after you cross the White House. Another point. Except towards a few reporters, then press secretary Robert Gibbs can be distant and difficult to reach. even though his job is to be one of the main conduits from president to press. Quote, "It's an odd White House where it's easier to get the White House chief of staff on the phone than the White House press secretary," one top reporter said. So just remember, boys and girls, when there's more to the article than I can cover here, but basically what it's saying is that, well, this is nothing new, and it would seem that the current regime ensconced in Washington was worse than what they think is going to occur with Donald Trump. Already, he's pissed their little hearts out because he went to dinner without them.
Well, it's also, I saw a timeline, and it's going to jump the subject a little bit, but it ties into this. They're talking how Donald Trump's transition team is in disarray. He's behind the ball. This is signs to come, and that's what the media is going with. So he's already appointed 2 people. The list that it showed like the last 6 or 7 presidents. And only one other president had an appointment the first week, and that was one appointment. All the rest, it's not until 6 to 8 weeks later do they start appointing the White House staff, chief of staff, all those appointments. It takes 6 to 8 weeks. Donald Trump is what? A week, 2 weeks? 2 weeks out of being nominated, and he's already appointing his staff. The media blows it up saying he's so far behind. There's all this turmoil. How? It's showing he's ahead of the game.
Well, it's so funny because they get to pick and choose their narrative. That's the narrative that they've decided to rally around behind when they forgot that the entire damn vice president of the United States said this week that there isn't one administration that's ready to go on the first day that it steps into office. Period. End of statement. Well, they'll cover all of that information. You see, what you know now is that you've identified their narrative. They've stated it, and that's what they're going to go with. Which is sort of gets to my end point. And that's it. This. As I said last night, what you're seeing now, if you think there's going to be any rest, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the new normal.
This is just the beginning.
This is how things are going to go. When you think that all of a sudden there'll be a lessening of the various attacks, you can expect the personal attacks to ramp up, not down. You can expect more pushback by the left, not less, more. And so the Republicans are going to have to get themselves together. I'm sorry, that's sort of something that the Republicans are not used to doing. But they're going to have to attempt to consolidate power. Or they're going to be as useless, essentially, as they were under George Bush when they held all 3 points, the White House, the House, the Senate, and they did absolutely nothing with the power because they were afraid. They were fearful. And that's one of the things that created the backlash. That philosophy is what created Donald Trump. If you don't want Donald Trump, if you didn't want Donald Trump, what the electorate is finally starting to tell you is show some spine.
Yep.
Show some pushback.
What did they do when they had all 3? They passed Obamacare.
Well, and you've got the Gang of 8 as well. So it's corrupted from the inside, additionally.
Well, I get in the argument they talk about, well, we need to redo immigration. The left wants to redo immigration. They could have passed that in 2009. They could have pushed that right through, whatever they wanted. We need gun control. Why didn't they push that in 2009? I know, 7 months they only had it. That's 7 months that they could push. They pushed Obamacare. That thing was a monstrosity, and they got it through. They could have done the same to immigration and gun control. But they don't want to fix those things. They never do. Because what would they bitch about? during elections. So now they're afraid Donald Trump's actually going to fix these issues, and what will they complain about? They're taking away all the points that the liberals use to get elected, all the bitching and moaning, and they're taking it away. I've said it before. I think the American people are waking up, and I saw an article. I think this is what we discussed off air. The American people see the Democrats, and the only argument they've had this whole election is sexist, racist, a bunch of phobias and isms. That's what they did. That was their whole campaign. It's still going on. But I think the people voted against that and said, we've had enough of that. We want policy. As much as they say Donald Trump was divisive, yes, he played the game and he attacked Hillary. But he talked more about policy than Hillary ever did. And I always say, when a Democrat is accusing a Republican of something, you better look at what they're doing, because that's exactly what they're doing. They accused Donald Trump of going low. That's all Hillary did was went low. How many times did we hear, and this is a point Sackhead made, and I thought it was an excellent point. They constantly compare, still to this day, that Donald Trump is Hitler and his administration will be comparable to Nazi Germany. Let's take a look at that. Let's even step back to Obama's administration. And as you said, the media is pretty much in bed with the left. And that's one of the things the Nazis needed, was control over the media so that they could spread their lies, keep pushing their lies. And there's a thing within psychology that if you tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And that's what the left do. They keep telling you the same lie over and over and over and over and over again until you believe it's the truth. But they need the media, the Nazis did back in 1930s. And then they needed to take control of the people. So they created false events to push why we need more government, why we need gun bans. And it started out, we just need to register the guns. Then it went to, we know where the guns are, we need to take them away for the safety of the people. So if you really want to go to comparing Nazi Germany to anybody, it's more comparable to the left than Donald Trump. And it's, to me, I'm sorry, it's a weak argument when you compare. Because that's saying you don't have any other argument, so you're going to go to the good old bag and pull out the Hitler card. It's as bad as the racist card, and I've lambasted the right for doing it. I've been guilty of doing it in the past. And it's just, I've sat back and watched, and it seems whenever anybody doesn't have a argument, they got to pull out, well, he's Hitler. That's Nazism. The left has fear-mongering, and that's all it's done this election.
Well, and everything is linked. Everything dovetails. Everything is interconnected. The press decided that they were going to hate Trump because he wasn't playing by the rules.
Yeah.
Historically, in the past, the press said jump to politicians, and the politician would respond, fine. How high?
Yep.
Basically, Trump denuded, he deballed, he emasculated the press, proving them to be the craven pussies that they are. They started any number of narratives against Donald Trump a year ago. And for all of their effort, what do they have as the result of it? Well, I know what they have. They have President-elect Donald Trump. Thank you very much. He proved that if you do, in fact, push back and you don't much care what the press says about you, and then you can throw it back with equal aplomb, basically, that you remove their power. People cannot stand to have their power removed. And I'm telling you, Jersey Joe, that's another reason that all the little rightists like Michael Medved, George Will et al. Decided that Donald Trump was the next Lucifer because they perceived that they were losing power as well, that people were not listening to the standard conservative line of let's be reasonable, let's be rational, because they finally realized and expressed it in the vote and expressed it in the electors that being reasonable and rational is a one-way street. As I said last night, there are two words that were always bandied about by the left, and that's bipartisanship and compromise. And then the GOP picked that up. Bipartisanship and compromise. We must be bipartisan. We must get together. There must be compromise. But they failed the most basic introspective test, which is this. The only people that ever had to be bipartisan and the only people that ever had to compromise were the Republicans.
Yeah.
The Democrats held their mud.
What did Harry Reid say when he was in control? I want compromise, but it'll be my way and my way only. That's directly in the opposite of a compromise. The only time Democrats want compromise is when they're not in power. When they're not in power, it's, you got to give us an appointment that's a little, liberal. You need to throw us a bone. You need to help us out. And the Republicans are dumb enough to go, okay, we'll give you that. We'll be nice. We'll help you out. Here you go. You know, and what happens when the liberals are in control and we come up and say, hey, you got to throw us a bone? Win an election. Then you can do it. Well,
you can know that leftists and the Democrats are losing a bill or losing an argument, specifically as you point out, when you hear those two phrases, that one word of that phrase, compromise and bipartisanship. When you hear that from Democrats, you know one thing. All bells and claxons are going on because you know they've just said that they're losing. The only time that they want that is when they're losing.
It drives me up a wall, this stuff. And I can't believe there's people that actually fall for it. There's people that are so gullible, they believe when the liberals come at it with this bullshit. And they just fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. And there's people on the conservative side that, not as many, but there is lemmings on the right. And I don't like that. I'll be truthful. Now that the election's done, main reason that I went with the Republican Party, why I switched officially, it was my original way of telling our government I'm not happy with what the Democrats were doing. Yes, it's one little tick into the Republican, but there's a lot of people that switched over in that time frame from the time Obama got voted in. A lot of people switched over to Republican Party, and I've talked to a decent amount of us, and it was not that we're Republican, diehard Republican. It's that we wanted to show the government that we were unhappy, and it was our little voice to say, hey, we're not happy about, so we're showing you by the numbers. I'll probably switch back to independent. Not because I don't like the Republican Party. It's because I'm not beholden blindly to any party. I try to pick the best candidate. Lately, yes, hands down, it's been the Republicans. In the past, has there been a couple Democrats that have earned my vote? Yes. So, I'm not somebody that just blindly follows, and I don't like when other people do. And I'm not accusing anybody specifically. Both sides have their problems. But right now, the Democrat Party, and that's what may keep me as a Republican for a little longer, is the Democrats they're standing for everything that is against America. They are destroying, and I'm scared of what this country is going to be. We cannot get back to what we were. It's that far damaged. Doesn't mean we can't be, excuse the quote here, great again. But I don't think we'll be the country we were before Obama. We're too far damaged. And they're pushing these anarchists too far. And if you look at a lot of the signs, this for the listeners, pay attention to the signs these people are holding. Read the small print.
Pay attention to the people that are holding the signs, because you'll see recurring faces throughout various cities. These people are paid to be there. They're in.
MSNBC is sitting there screaming, "This is organic." Yeah, I know. People just thousands of people just happen to show up at the same time without being told. The buses that brought them in, it's just a coincidence that they're parked there. And the thousands of pre-printed professional signs is just a coincidence. And when you look at the bottom of them, it'll say sponsored by, and all the other thing. And it'll usually be a socialist party or a communist party. And it's right there on the sign, but people never pay attention to that part. We got to cut for a break. Are you going to stick around a little bit longer, BZ?
Sure, if it's all right with you, sir.
That's perfectly fine with me. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense with a guest, BZ, right here on HP Pundit and SHR Media. We will be right back.
Listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to articles near you. Excelsior.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Listening to Reaver of Common Sense, hosted by my dad, Jersey Joe. Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying confidence, stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch the Southside Mud Show with its hosts, the Jersey Boys, Jersey Joe and Crash, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Radio, where we will be digging up the dirt.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
If you miss a show, don't worry. You can catch the replays two ways, rebootingliberty.com or the Reaver of Common Sense.com. While you're there on Reaver of Common Sense, don't forget, drop in your email and keep up to date on everything going on, or click the like button on the Facebook widget. Now on to the Reaver of Common Sense.
Listening to the SHR Media Network.
This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show. And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense Show. I am your host, Jersey Joe, and I am honored to have BZ with me today. We're trying to make sense out of the senseless, but when dealing with liberals, it's an impossible Herculean task. Now that I totally went stuttering on that. The Jersey Takeover is here. We have expanded to 2 hours every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to watch a broadcast, that's very easy. Go to Reaver.1 and click on the live stream. Last but not least, do you want a kick-ass t-shirt? If so, you could help support the show and help support SHR Media by going to Reaver.1 and click on the shop button. And welcome back, BZ. I'm glad you're here today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. You're very kind to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I should like to point out also that Jersey Joe has some of those very nice corded bracelets, and I bought one for my wife and one for myself. If you go to Reaver.1, you'll see his shopping area. And I bought one of those corded paracord bracelets for myself with a plastic clasp, and I bought one for the wife that has a metal clasp. And luckily I turned in the proper measurements, and they were great. So, folks, if you're looking for those, they're nice to look at, and they're practical, and he's got a ton of different styles to look at and different colors, which is almost impertinent to me because I'm colorblind. But in any event, go there and look around, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to find something that you will like from Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense.
I've been wanting to play this, and I know you won't be able to hear it, and I'll explain it as it goes along. This has really nothing to do with politics. This is just a break from the monotony. It's a town hall meeting, okay? And pay attention when they ask for the mayor for his discussion. I'll explain it as it goes along, BZ.
All right.
Move to add the emergency clause. Second, adding the emergency clause.
And discussion? Mayor, would you like to speak regarding this?
And everybody heard that correct. In the middle of the meeting, they're talking about emergency clause, and they asked the mayor for discussion, and all of a sudden, someone farts. And next thing you know, just everybody starts laughing. They're like, that's the first one. I think it's perfect timing of mayor discussing. He had a pretty shitty commentary, but it's just, it's hysterical to me. Yes, I like fart jokes and all that, but just in the middle of a town hall meeting, and you know the guy was probably sitting there going, oh, I hope this is quiet. Oh, wait a minute. Uh-oh, that wasn't a quiet one. And it went across the mic, and everybody just starts laughing. And you have the one woman, she's trying to be serious about it, and she's kind of like getting pissed. Everybody's laughing. But I'm sorry, I find it hysterical. I thought it would be a good thing to play. I couldn't stop laughing when I heard it.
I have to tell you a tale since we're bringing up fart jokes right now. But I have to tell you a quick tale that occurred to me a number of years ago. I happened to be in a Nordstrom's, and I don't know if they have them on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, a Nordstrom is a really high-end department store. And you have to have a lot of money to walk into one of these places.
Oh, we have them around here.
Pardon?
We have them. My in-laws, my in-laws love to go to Nordstrom up in I think it's Scranton. They have it. Yeah.
I wouldn't know, but apparently they give you absolutely outstanding service, and that's where you go if you want to buy really high-quality products. So a few years ago, I was in a Nordstrom kind of walking around, and I have to say it's beautifully staffed. The staff are very kind, and there was a woman not far from me in an aisle, and she was looking at clothing, and she was dressed to the nines. Beautiful spiked heels, gorgeous coat, lovely, lovely jewels, wonderful accessories, brilliant makeup, flawless in every respect. And she's walking around in the area with clothing, and there really isn't anybody around except me and her, and I'm simply passing by. And as she's walking down the aisle, I hear, there's no one else around. And for just a microsecond, because it was such an elitist little place, I thought, will I be able to stop from... No, I wasn't able to stop from... I blew up. I started laughing. Tears were streaming down my face because it was so terribly incongruent. And, of course, there was the time that the dog was walking up the steps. And as the dog was walking up the steps, it was going...
My little Yorkie poo, he was about a year or two old. This is back when I was smoking. We were outside, and all of a sudden I hear, and at the same time I look, and it's my Yorkie poo, and he jumps straight in the air, I swear, like 6 inches. And at the same time, he contorted his body and is looking at his ass, and he has this look of fear, like, what the hell was that?
Where'd that come from?
And my German Shepherd, I think he's got a stomach bug. He has not felt good the last couple of days. I'll be getting texts while I'm doing my show. Your goddamn dog is stinking me out. He's just been ripping them in the... My daughter had a friend over. All of a sudden, she's like, I gotta go. It stinks in here.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Jersey Joe Show, the best in political commentary and fart jokes.
Hey, sometimes you gotta just,
That's true. Sometimes things just erupt. That's how it goes.
Exactly. But yeah, I just thought that town hall meeting, because I've been at God knows how many, as a deputy chief, I've had to go to those meetings. And there's so many times it's like, oh God, I got to walk out of here for a minute. Because you got to, it's just like, at the worst time it's going to sound the worst. I think the best fart thing I saw, we're working a code on a gentleman, and the medic, she was a very heavy-set medic. She kneels down to intubate.
Okay, all right.
And at the same time, she rips her pants and farts at the exact same time. And it's just, we're all looking like, if we weren't working this code and the wife wasn't over there, we'd be dying laughing. We got done, and I know some people will chastise us for it. We got done and we started talking about and just started busting out laughing. And when you're doing that job, you got to find the stupidest things to laugh at.
Because you're human, and you're not a robot. You're human.
Well,
life is funny sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we also in EMS, and I'm pretty sure within law enforcement they do the same thing. To deal with the stress, we make some of the stupidest jokes, some of the sickest jokes. We gotta laugh, otherwise. I mean, literally, we had a guy on the ambulance. He didn't think it was proper to make fun and joke around about it. He lasted about 1.5 years before he tried to commit suicide. He wasn't successful. He got his head straight. He actually came back on the rig and is still 20 years later doing it, but he learned to make the jokes, how to de-stress himself. I mean, just as go ahead.
You can't internalize that stuff for long because you're a human being and it's got to come out. Yeah. And it's called graveyard humor, and you try to make sure that you do it not in front of the public. Sometimes you can't help, but all that does is prove that you're human. Mm-hmm. And when you see the sorts of things that paramedics, emergency responders, and law enforcement see, and the military, the military, of course. When you see those kinds of things, you've got to let go. There has to be a pressure release valve somewhere, and it's in the form of humor. If you didn't do that, that's a coping mechanism. And if you didn't do that, if you didn't release the valve, you would explode. You couldn't do the job.
Yep.
Simply, period.
I had a paramedic, a great paramedic, and he was a medic in Vietnam. And to give an example of how bad it gets, in a 6-month period, I had 12 kids, they were 17 to 21, involved in accidents, and they all died. One night, we had out of 5 kids that were in a car, only 1 survived. Now, we pulled 2 out that were still alive. The 1 died at the hospital. But we literally were just pulling these kids out, 21 years old, out of a car, and just pulling them out and just putting them to the side because we knew they were gone. There was nothing we could do. I mean, you got to make the jokes. I mean, there was a lot of nights, a lot of drinking I did back then. Is it the proper way? Not exactly, but it's one of the easiest coping mechanism. Me and Crash, we talk about it on air. We rode together 10 years, and it would be, we'd get done. It's like, all right, we're going to the bar. We'd have bad nights and just go to the bar and drink. And we knew the bar personnel, so they always took care of us. And it'd be, sometimes they'd just look at us, they'd go, yep, you had a bad night, here's some shots, and line it up. At first they were like, oh, you don't want to drink to get over it. And then we started telling the stories. They're like, here's a drink. They understood why sometimes we would drink. You can't talk it out all the time. It's still to this day. I've been out of EMS for over 7 years now, and one of the kids racing, first night, his parents paid to soup up his car. Just got his driver's license, car all souped up, license plate was too quick, drove down the street, lost control, hit a telephone pole. The impact was so hard from the jawline back, his head snapped off and was outside the car. We had to go in there because his girlfriend was in the car, and we had to work on her. Now, amazingly, she only broke her arm from the impact. So that's the type of stuff that we had to see. To give example, that was one of the, 12 kids I lost. And, there's not a psychiatrist talking about it, but I still close my eyes at night, and I could still see that kid in the car. His right hand on the shifter, his left hand still on the steering wheel, and seeing the bottom teeth in a pool of blood. And that's why we make the jokes, people. Whether you can understand it or not, that's why we make the jokes, to deal with that type of imagery that we have on a daily basis. But I had a medic from Vietnam. He said what I saw in that 6 months, he'd rather go back to Vietnam. He admitted he would have ended his career if he saw what I saw. So, well, let's get back to politics instead of war stories.
Good, because I could tell stories after having worked 41 years in law enforcement. I could tell you stories.
Oh, I know you can.
Unfortunately, I'm 0 for 3 in CPR.
CPR, I learned it. Second call I ever had was a cardiac arrest. And we went on it. We did everything perfect. And the lady passed away. And it hit me. I'm like, we did everything right. Why isn't she alive? When you take the classes, you do it right. They go, the patient's alive, walking. So it's ingrained in you during your classes that everything's going to be fine. That's why when I started teaching CPR, it'd be, sorry, the patient didn't make it. What do you mean? I did everything right. But that's what you're going to have out on the street. A very low percentage come back from CPR. Out of like 40, 50 CPRs that I worked on, maybe 6 of them survived.
Yeah, it's true. For a time, CPR was admonished and touted as sort of the end-all and be-all, and its recovery stats were really not good. I don't want to be a downer. I'll make this kind of short, but it has a point to it. One of my CPR calls, and I worked for a sheriff's department when this occurred. We got a 902 call, and oddly enough, we beat the medics there because we just happened to be right around the corner, myself and a trainee of mine when I was an FTO. And we got to this particular call, and it's a very nice section of my district. Very nice, very moneyed, very wealthy. And there was no one to meet us out in the front. We had to knock on the door. They called 911. And the only thing we had on the screen was something about a child, and the child wouldn't wake up.
Oh.
So we went and had to knock, and there was no one there to greet us, no one there to try to help us get inside the house and get things going. We knocked and knocked, rang the door, tried the door. Finally, they let us in, and they were pointing to the backyard, and the sliding door was open. We went out through the sliding door, and there's a pool. And there's an open gate in the fence around the pool. So we walk into the pool area, look, and there's a little boy down at the bottom of the pool. You have 2 adults in their 40s who are looking at their child in the pool and doing nothing. They are fully clothed. They're completely dressed. They're flummoxed. And their boy is down at the bottom of the pool. They're not in the pool. All they're doing is watching and calling 911. So, for whatever reason, I was the first one in, dropped the old Sam Brown and jumped into the pool. Well, number one, anybody that knows me knows that I'm not a big fan of water. And number 2, I swim about as well as rocks float.
It's amazing what you do in emergencies like that, isn't it?
And I'm wearing boots. So I'm not going to float very well anyway. I was smart enough to take off the gun and the belt and the Sam Brown and whatnot. I was able to pull the child up out of the water and start CPR. And for a moment I was thinking, well, it turns out he was 6 years old. And I started CPR, and I had my partner, urge the medic rig on to try to get there. And I worked on the child as long as I could, and I kept thinking, all right, it's winter, it's cool, the pool is cold, and this is a young child who generally have the best chance of coming back from CPR because they're young, they're resolute.
Well, all the odds were in his favor.
Yeah, all the odds in a CPR case, it could have been. It's just I couldn't bring him back, and I will never ever forget 2 overeducated, guilty white people, senseless, simply looking at their own 6-year-old boy at the bottom of the pool and not doing a thing. What the hell? Never will I forget that.
No,
I had no words for them. What could you say to people like that? You can't say a thing.
No, yeah.
And I couldn't bring him back.
And that's what people don't understand when they look at our careers. They think everything's all happy. I mean, they look at EMS and they don't realize the assaults being shot at, being stabbed, all that happens on the rig. Everybody, and I've had people, well, everybody's happy to see you. No, they're not. It's also a little bit of a joke on EMS. I thought this was funny as hell. It has a terrible beginning, but the last part, I'm sorry, I had to laugh at. We took this older lady because she had a stroke. She didn't want to go. Or no, it was a heart attack. She didn't want to go because her husband just came home from a stroke. And she didn't want to leave him alone. He kept saying, honey, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. So, that was on a Friday night. Sunday afternoon, we get a welfare check. They give the address, and it doesn't click in until I pull up to the apartment building. I said, son of a bitch. And everybody went, what? I said, get ready for a code. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, just shut up. And I had this college kid that was with me, and he had to question everything I did. Every decision, he had a question on the spot. And at that point, I wasn't in the mood. I told him to shut the fuck up and just do what I said. Get in there real quick. And we went in. Sure enough, it's the old man. He had an upper GI bleed erupt. And how I know that is because he started throwing up the coffee grounds. And he was bent over the tub. Well, he was rigor mortis from the waist down. There was pooling of blood, everything. The guy was gone. There's nothing we can do. Nothing. So I called the code right there. Of course, the idiot decides he's going to challenge me again. He's warm up top, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, the guy's gone. There's nothing we can do. As soon as we flip him over, start pushing the blood through, we're going to be blowing clots. There's nothing we can do for this man. So he keeps running his mouth. I said, fine, you're going to explain it to the medic, and you're cleaning all the equipment up. This is going to be a messy one. Not that I care about mess. If it's going to save a life, I'll make as much mess as I can. But I knew there was no saving this guy. Zero chance.
So he wanted to run some leads on this guy.
Well, that's the medics. The medics had to come in. So I had to wait to the medics. But because we started, they had to do all their stuff. So they were bitching at me. Because I went outside, and I'm standing outside. They're like, why are you out here? I'm like, I called the code white and cancel us. I said, well, my partner decided to be a smart ass, the young kid. And he went, oh, he didn't. I went, yeah, he ran his mouth so. They went in bitching and boring and screaming at him because they're like, now we have to waste all of our equipment. If the guy has rigor mortis and we could see it from here, now you're making us do all this stuff. There's nothing we could do for this man, and we got to now even desecrate his body. Now, what makes this a joke is when we flip the body over and lay it on the ground, the guy's laying there. Now, what happened is the upper part of the body was still trying to live. So he's given agonal respiration. And what that means is every once in a while, like once every 2 minutes, he would take in a deep breath of air. His lungs were still trying to survive. All I remember is the cop, and he was an ex-Marine. Big shit brick house. I mean, the guy was built. Big and bad. That corpse lit out a breath like that. I'd never seen a cop run so fast in my life. I mean, he just took off running out of there. Scared the shit out of him. So when I went outside to wait for the medic, I'm like, what are you doing out here? He's like, I ain't going back in there. That fucking body took a breath. I was like, yeah, it's agonal respiration. It's normal. I ain't going back in there with that goddamn zombie. I was like, oh, my God, you big wussy. I know, a long story, not to get really anywhere, but it was funny to watch that cop just take off running. And I've seen it with medics, everything. And that also goes to show, because this kid was a liberal and college educated. I didn't have a college degree. And he thought he was smarter than me. I had been doing this career for like 10 years already. I was deputy chief. I didn't get deputy chief for the fun of it. In fact, I wasn't winning on popularity because my nickname was Royal Asshole and Evil Sadistic Son of a Bitch. Because I didn't take anybody's guff. I went right back at them. The crews I was the hardest on were the crews that I liked. I treated them harder than anybody else because I knew what to expect from them. Even the crews that I didn't like and didn't get along with, if I knew they were having a hard night and they had a little downtime, I would go to them. Let's go out to dinner. I'm buying. Come on, I knew you had a hard night. It doesn't matter whether I liked anybody or not. I still treated them all the same, but I got treated different by these college kids because they thought they were smarter than me because of a piece of paper they were going for. Well, my education, I didn't have to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year for a piece of paper. There's nothing wrong with degrees, but at the same time, I knew there was nothing I could get out of a college. I know this is total ramblings today, but...
Well, who's making more money these days? Someone who's graduated from college or a plumber? I know the answer to that question.
Plumbers. The welders make holy shit. My dad was a welder. And when I was born in 1971, he was making $3.50 an hour. And now these guys are making upwards sometimes of, $90 an hour. It's unbelievable. And that's what Mike Rowe pushes. College is not for everybody. Contrary to what my father-in-law thinks, college is not for everybody. And we've put that into their heads so bad, these kids. Everybody thinks they have to go to college, and they put their nose up to trade school. Well, trade school, not even trade school. There's some jobs you don't need any education. They'll train you, and you'll make more money than a goddamn lawyer. Because one thing I learned about lawyers, they're sort of like garbage men. Yes, garbage men make great money for one reason. The hours they work. And same with lawyers. They put in so many hours to make all that money. Unless you're a top law firm or something. But for the most part, you have to work so many goddamn hours to make that money.
This shouldn't surprise you. In the state of California, there's a janitor who made $200,000 in a year.
Yeah, but also California, the cost of living is ridiculous too. At the same time, but yeah, $200,000. Holy shit!
Well, he also, what they forgot to write in the article was that he wrote he basically took all the overtime that he possibly could. Yeah. And they had tons and tons of overtime for him, so he took it all. In terms of money, ladies and gentlemen, everyone is kvetching for a $15 an hour minimum wage. My first non-federal law enforcement job for a local coastal agency in the state of California, my wage was $5.70 an hour. And then if I worked graveyard, I got a shift differential pay, an additional 35 cents an hour to work graves. I don't want to hear about a $15 minimum wage, because you don't get into that profession knowing that you're going to cut a fat hog, because you don't.
Do you know, after 20 plus years of EMS, what my top wage was? Hourly. I made $14.35, and that was working at ER. The top I made on the street was $13.50. Most your EMTs that we start out in the private sector working for transport companies. They pay minimum wage. I was lucky because of my experience, and they wanted me as a supervisor, so they paid me the top wage. I was making more than the medics there. $13.50 an hour. I was the top paid employee that wasn't a supervisor. $13.50. And now these burger flippers and Walmart workers want $15 an hour. Your job is not a career. That is a job that teaches you how to go to a career, what a basic job needs. That job is at Burger King, for kids to learn, for older people, for retirement, when they still want to work, do something just to take up the time. For somebody that wants to earn extra money. Burger King and Walmart are not exactly careers. Is there positions that you can make a career? Yes, within management. There's always an exception to every rule. But when you're working Burger King, it's not a career move. So this minimum wage argument is a joke. All it's doing is going to kill jobs.
Well, it's already killing jobs. One of the things that's already occurring in Seattle is a $15 an hour wage town. And what they discovered is that a lot of the smaller businesses that they wanted to embrace couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford the additional personnel costs. So what you ended up what the unintended or unforeseen consequences, because leftists don't think 2 or 3 steps ahead. They're just based on the emotive factor. Some of the businesses decided, to hell with Seattle. We're going to go to neighboring King County. And a lot of those establishments went to King County, and they're doing just fine. Thank you very much. The country, unfortunately, is heading towards a large crash, and it doesn't want to talk about it. Now, absent everything else that we've been talking about, this will end up having a great deal to do with illegal immigration. And that's this. This country is heading for a big confrontation with jobs and with employment. If you're not technically advanced, if you're not well educated, it's getting to the point where you're not going to be able to find employment. So the argument for the $15 wage and the argument that immigrants are coming here to do the jobs that regular Americans won't do is becoming a specious argument for this reason. When the push for $15 an hour minimum wage job went on, all these various places, Burger King, McDonald's, etc., started creating kiosks. And that's one of the reasons that you see self-checkout in markets, which is why you see kiosks in various fast food joints.
What did McDonald's say? That they've had the technology from time you make your order till the time it's delivered, they have it all automated, but they did not want to do it. They didn't want to destroy jobs, so they never implemented. They've had that technology for a long time now, and now it's starting. There's one in Arizona. From the time you walk in to the time you get finished, it's all automated.
Yes, and restaurants on the West Coast out here, for example. Now you walk into a restaurant. There's a place called Chili's, and there's also another place called Applebee's, where there's a little device on the table. You don't need to pay your server anymore. When you want to leave, you don't do that. You just go through the little machine, and that helps to eliminate a particular individual. So these arguments that people are making that the $15 minimum wage is good for America is wrong. It's pushing the wrong way at this time. And the corollary to that is that all the jobs that alleged Americans won't do are also the jobs that are being automated. There are machines, and this should come as no shock. You know, you quote, needed illegals to work in the fields, for example, or to clean things here and there. There are machines that do that now. Yeah. So this argument for immigration, why we need immigration, what are we doing? We're importing more people that we're going to have to put on the rolls because they're bringing no skills to the table. And that's a coming massive clash in terms of employment.
I want to jump back to something because I had talked about, and again, I'm sorry if anybody listens to the show knows I have a habit of jumping around. I had talked about the appointments and how they're bitching at Trump, saying he's behind the 8 ball and all that. I found the graph. Nixon, all his appointees were done in week 6. Carter, his first appointment was on week 5, 2 in week 6. Week 7 was 7 appointments. Week 8 had 2 appointments. Reagan, week 6, had 8 appointments, and everything was later. Now, Bush 41 had 2 appointments the first week, 2 appointments the second week, and everything else came week 5. Clinton had week 6 is when he started to make his appointment. Week 7 is when he made 6 appointments. Bush 43 never made his first appointment until week 6. Week 7, he made 5. And week 8, he made 8. Now, Obama never made an appointment until week 3. Week 4, he made 4. And then 2, 4, and 4. Now, Trump's already made 2. And even David Axelrod, who said there's lots of reasons to be concerned about Donald Trump, but the pace of announcement isn't one of them. And even he said that they had not made any major appointments in 2008 and wasn't criticized. Even Axel Rotten is sticking up for Trump. The media is going nuts over this shit. And I had talked about it towards the beginning of the show, and I didn't have that graph with me. And I had to put that out because I had talked about it earlier, and I apologize for jumping around, BZ. That pisses me off. The media is doing everything to cause distension in this country. They're doing everything they can.
Well, that's what they're going to continue to do. A little bit of insight about that. One of the reasons that you attempt to identify people as soon as possible is that depending upon the position and their job title and what their the job position delineates, they may or may not have to handle security info and material. And it takes a while for these individuals to be backgrounded and then approved for various security classifications. One very interesting point, if you've never read the book, let's go back to the Clinton administration and Democrats just for a moment. If you've never read the book Inside the White House by Ronald Kessler, that's an excellent, excellent book. And essentially what happened is the Clintons, being the elitists that they are, had tons of people, no organization, and they refused and delayed submitting names to the FBI for proper vetting. And you had people inside the Clinton White House who were handling security information and never acquired the proper vetting from the FBI. And the FBI basically did nothing about it. So you had persons running around inside the Oval Office and the White House handling secure communications and the like. So Hillary Clinton doing that on behalf of the leftists, that's really nothing new. And this is something that was tamped down. This is something that you never heard from the American media maggots. It took someone who was actually inside at the time, and he was working for the FBI, which is why he knows this. He saw it personally and wrote it down, and it later was published as a book. So the reason that you need this and to identify people, if you're going to do it the right way, is so that you can have all these people backgrounded for the various security clearances. That is, if you care, and if the FBI is pushed to do its job. So you already know what kind of an idea I have about the FBI. Now, not the line-level agents, but the administration.
It's ridiculous.
Here's something interesting. Robert Clapper submitted his resignation today. That's a wonderful thing. People were saying that he was going to do it anyway, and so he ended up doing it today. He's the guy, if you remember, who said that, oh, no, we don't monitor people. We don't monitor their phone calls. We don't monitor their texts. Yeah, bullshit alert. Yes, you do.
I'm going to give you two articles. They kind of intertwine, don't intertwine. And I want to get your commentary on it. First, retiring California Senator Barbara Boxer submitted a bill that will abolish the Electoral College. Now, everybody has to remember, it's a constitutional change. It could take up to 7 years for this to go through. Actually, it has 7 years to get passed by the states. All these protesters think it's as simple of a snap of a finger, but it isn't. It's a constitutional change that would have to take place to do away with the Electoral College. And then Washington Post wrote an article to do away with the states.
Oh, I seem to remember something about that. That's brain-glazing, really, just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Here's what would happen if you eliminate the Electoral College. And if you go on social media, you'll probably find graphs around there. And that's this. The counties with the highest populations, and if you look at the map of the United States, it's basically all the coastal counties with high population density.
You're talking what? Miami, New York City, Los Angeles.
the Northeast, any city, any big city that you can think of with a high population, depending on how those persons voted, the entire rest of the United States would have to go with them. So all the rest of those, quote, flyover states, you may as well not even be living there. You might as well go back to
Your vote
a
won't
large
count.
urban setting and go live in a rat cage with all the rest of the people that love high-density populations and being shoved into a rat cage, and do that because that's what the Electoral College guards against, is people in certain high-density counties having all the power.
Yep.
And then once they had all the power, it would be there in perpetuity. But again, that's exactly what the Democrats want. Power in perpetuity. From NPR 8 hours ago, critics work to get rid of the Electoral College. You're absolutely right.
It's the only way they can win. They can't win the honest way. Four times in, 150 years since the Electoral College got put in. I may be off on the exact math of how many years. 4 times. Out of how many presidencies?
Well, the Electoral College comes from Article 2 of the United States Constitution, so it's actually embedded in the original Constitution.
All right, but it's 4 times, even in that time span. 4 times. That's such a low percentage. And they're going to whine and cry. They had 8 years of rule. And if you look, it doesn't matter whether the popular or what. When any party has control for 2 terms, normally it switches. Because people get tired of said party. It's happened to the Republicans plenty of times. It's happened to the Democrats. And it happened this time. People got tired of it. And I guess Cleveland Indians, and I've said it before and I'm going to stick to it, Cleveland Indians should be protesting. Chicago Cubs are not my World Series champions. Why? Because the Cleveland Indians scored 27 runs, the same amount that the Cubs scored in 7 games. So the Cleveland Indians deserve to be crowned the World Series champions. They got the same amount.
To be fair.
Yeah, everybody's looking this. We do not have a national election. It's not one big competition for president. And that's the problem. People are looking and saying it's one big competition. It is 50 small races. And that's how the presidency is made, from 50 small races.
Well,
pretty much the difference on the popular vote, California.
Oh, California's a winner-take-all state.
But, you're talking what? There was a 2 to 3 million popular vote difference between Trump and Hillary?
Well, yes, and just recently, because of the election, California doesn't just have a majority of Democrats now. They've gone back to the absolute supermajority. So in California, you may as well not even have an opposing party, because the Democrats can ram anything they want up the bunghole of the Republicans.
Yeah, but my point is she won the popular vote by 770,000 votes, and she won California, one state. One state she won by 3 million votes. So that doesn't make sense. So California should be the end-all, be-all for presidential elections? Get over it. Get off your ass. Stop whining. Go back to fucking class. Let me tell you, if that was my kid out there protesting, I'm paying $40,000 a year for that kid to be at school, I'd be yanking that kid out of school in 5 seconds and putting him to goddamn work. You don't want to go to school? Go to work. And my daughter knows that. She wants to go to college, but she knows if she doesn't go to college, if she chooses not to, that's her right. She will go to work instead.
That gets also back to the parents of all these little preening, safety-pinned, lovely individuals. The parents now want to be their children's friend instead of the actual parents.
I'm very good friends with my daughter. I'm very good. We get along great. She's 13, so we're still on the young age. But she also knows that daddy is the authority in
Well,
the house.
yes, and you get to pull the parent card.
Yeah.
A lot of parents, they don't know how to pull the parent card or when.
Well, I get this. I had gotten this when my daughter was a baby. My in-laws, I would hear them bitching all the time. You're too hard on her. You're too hard on her. You're too hard on her. If she started crying, I would get her out of that restaurant in 5 seconds. Oh, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I don't like when other people do it. And I was hard on my daughter. Now, I don't have to be that hard on my daughter because she knows the rules. She knows discipline. So I can be a little bit more friends with my daughter because I established, and she said she loves me to death. My daughter adores me. I know that. But she also fears me at the same time. She knows.
Here's the other thing. You've done your best to create something that no one is interested in anymore. A good citizen.
Yeah. I've told her, I catch you desecrating the flag. Me and you are going to go round and round. She's like, no, that's disrespectful. I love this country. In her class, she's in 6th grade. They had an election in her class. She was the only one that voted Trump, and she got ridiculed for several days afterwards. And she stood up going, yeah, I voted for Trump. And they're like, oh, hey, Trump, why don't you come here? And she came home. She's like, Dad, why are they calling me Trump? I said, they're trying to make fun of you. You know, they don't like Trump, so they think by calling you Trump, it's an insult. She's like, I think that's stupid and ridiculous. I just ignore him. My daughter also has a speech impediment, and she's gotten a hell of a lot better. But she used to get mocked for it, and it used to upset her. And I've talked to her about it and how to deal with it. And now she just like ignores what kids say. If they say something negative, she'll walk away from them. And that's why this bully shit that the left pushes is an excuse to whine. You have Megyn Kelly. Trump was bullying me. Well, you were bullying him. You were trying to force him to submit to your way of thinking. Because she's like, he was trying to force me, and he went and he kept coming at me about his point of view. Well, what does a journalist do in an interview? They attack the person they're interviewing. So she's bullying also. This whole idea of bullying, everybody bullies everybody by definition. By me over-talking you right now, I'm bullying you. And what would you do if you didn't want to take it? You would talk right back over me. You know, it's so easy to go back on their conversation and use it against them. Then it's, oh, no, that's different.
I only watched this video once. I can't watch it again. But on this past Saturday, November 12th, if you happen to go to my blog and go to the November 12th post, it's entitled The Insanity of Leftists on Trump's Win. If you haven't seen this particular video that's at the top, it's of this small child crying because his mother kicks him out of the house as he voted for Trump in school. So apparently she thought it would be all sorts of good, clean fun and very clever to videotape herself basically abusing her little boy and kicking him out of the house.
I don't think you were in on the conversation, but I think that the kids got yanked out of the house the other day.
I wouldn't be surprised. The cries, I mean, this is a serious, serious video. This child thinks that he's being kicked out of the house. He cries, he pleads.
Yep. I got to interrupt, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I was watching that video, and I have a laptop hooked to my TV, so I'll watch stuff through the TV when I'm doing some work and nobody's around. My daughter walked out of the room and was watching that. All of a sudden, she erupts, pissed off, screaming at the mother, screaming at her somebody should arrest her. She's like, that is abuse of that little kid. She's like, I will not stand for that. And she's screaming at the TV. My daughter was visibly pissed off at that mother. My 13-year-old daughter could see the abuse that mother was doing. Oh, go ahead.
It's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking to watch because, and she keeps videotaping, and she keeps pounding at this poor little boy. It doesn't really have a hell of a lot to do with it, but she's black and he's black. And it doesn't relent. She doesn't relent. And he keeps crying because he thinks he's actually getting, perhaps she was serious.
Well, she's now said it was all a joke. It was a big joke. A joke does not excuse you for being abusive towards a child. Just as these people that say that they're joking when they threaten to kill the President-elect Trump. It is not a joke. A joke does not excuse you of breaking the law.
Leftists, and they continue to prove that they have no shame, no values, no moral compass, no sense of, like I say, proportion, rationality, or conscience, or logic, or common sense. Little sense of direction except maybe nihilism or base anarchy like we're seeing throughout the United States. Here's the thing that I find absolutely riotous about this, about the riots. For Portland, the people in Portland were rioting like crazy. And all the people that love public transit, what were they doing? They were destroying the kiosks and the monitors of public transit. Here's the other thing that I like. In Portland, an extreme leftist city, they were setting trees on fire. These are the people that pray to Gaia and Mother Earth and love the environment so much. So they were setting trees on fire and vehicles on fire. Vehicles leak petroleum products. And then you're sending burning materials up into the air. But these people absolutely love the environment. But here's the thing that I find just absolutely delicious about Portland. They're rioting. There isn't a conservative or a Republican within 45 miles of Portland. But by God, they certainly showed the city of Portland, didn't they?
Yep.
Who's going to pay for that infrastructure?
Yeah, they got to pay it for themselves.
Which I never. Portland.
Another one. This one just it boggled my mind. And I'm going to give you a scenario, and I'm going to ask you a simple question when I'm done with it. There is a female. She got in a car accident, a two-vehicle traffic accident. When they tested her, she had a BAC of 0.33. Okay? What was her excuse?
Let's see. She was letting off steam because of the Trump win.
Close. She said she was drowning her sorrows, and that's why she got drunk and in the accident, and it's all Trump's fault.
Well, if she's actually maneuvering at 3 something like that, she's basically a functioning alcoholic. You know about alcoholism. Yeah. You and I both do. I've seen a guy who was a 4-0 who actually was speaking, and he was a functioning alcoholic. If he wasn't a 4-0, he'd be in serious trouble.
I had a patient one time. The reason he was unconscious, and they always have that smell on him. So we thought he was drunk, and when we took him to the hospital, they knew who he was. I had to go mutual aid to another town, and I have never met the guy before, so I didn't know. His alcohol level was down to like a 0.15. They actually had it give him an IV and bring his BAC up because his BAC dropped too low because he's a functioning alcoholic. It actually became dangerous for him. Some of these people, they're so hardcore drinkers that they have to keep a certain BAC or they'll die because their body got used to that.
That's what I do. I have mostly a big drip going on of Kettle One. I'm attached to it right now, but that's I'm functioning. I'm not slurring my words right now, so I can function. I can do it.
But to blame an election, that sums up only them would they come up with blaming an election for being in a drunk driving accident. And they think it's an excuse that'll get them off. And I'm getting tired, like when we began the show, talking about that idiot that says we shouldn't be separating families when it comes to deportation. That's not my problem. They broke the law. Just as if I go out and rob a bank If I go out and beat the shit out of somebody, if I go out and even if I go to one of these self-checkouts and an item doesn't ring up and I don't realize it and I walk out, no one's going to fight for me saying I shouldn't go to jail for shoplifting. And don't tell me it doesn't happen because I know it happened because that's why my wife's out of work. She didn't go to jail, but she lost her job because she was checking out and one item, the buzzer went off to let her know it rang up. But when she walked out, security stopped her and pressed charges against her. So she could have gone to jail very easy. But no one was championing for her not to go to jail because it would split a family up. But for some reason, they want to make excuses because people choose to break our immigration laws. We should forgive them because we don't want to break families up. And I said it, and I'll say it again. You break the law, you come in here illegally, and you have a kid, fine. Right now, they say he's an American citizen. That's fine. But he's not of age. He has to go back with the parents, and when he turns 18, he's more than welcome to come back in the United States. But until then, he has to go with his parents. It's not the country's fault that his parents broke the law, and I still don't think 2 illegal immigrations, just because they pop a kid out in this country, doesn't mean that that kid's an American citizen.
Well, they're setting a dangerous precedent, and the dangerous precedent is this. They have no regard for the rule of law. When you have no rule of law, you have anarchy. So they should at least be honest. Be honest. Say that you don't want borders anymore.
Yeah.
And there is no sovereignty. And what that creates then is the onus on the American taxpayer to cough up all sorts of money. You know, the thing that Trump really didn't address, and Clinton certainly didn't address, is the fundamental bottom line. Can we afford it? Can we pay for it? In my purple-skied world, there should be each bill passed should have to cross this threshold, or it won't go. The first threshold is it constitutional? The second threshold is, can we afford it?
Yeah.
And if it didn't pass those 2 primary questions, it wouldn't be going anywhere. On the other hand, how many bills would we have?
A lot less.
Not very many.
I know what, funny, and then we're going to have to do, last minute because the show's pretty much done. A Democrat yesterday I saw was complaining about Trump's tax plan. And complaining that it's going to add to the deficit, and our deficit's already $19 trillion. We can't add any more to it. Well, where the hell was this Democrat when their party's president ran $10 trillion in debt in 8 years? He wasn't complaining then, but now he wants to try to make that complaint? Fuck off. Tired of that shit. All right, last argument. We got 2 minutes.
This particular president, Mr. Obama, is the only president in quite some time, I think since 1928, who hasn't had even a continuous 3% GDP throughout his term. It's a cover-up. And here's the deal. Like I said, all of this that's going on right now, I think this is the new normal. But I think what Republicans and conservatives are going to have to do is just basically what Trump said on his winning speech, and that's this: the work is just starting. We as conservatives, we cannot afford to give up. The more they push, the more left push, the more I'm going to push back. That's why I am pushback. I have to be pushed back now because so few people are willing to do it. So this is the new normal, number one. And number two, if you think that you can just sit back because you own the Oval Office and the House and the Senate, just wait. Everyone knows that...
and that's what the Democrats did. They sat back and they thought they had everything.
Well, yes, they became complacent. Well, complacent by name is the Republican Party, really.
Yeah. I hate to cut you off, but we are there at the end of the show.
Yes, sir.
And I love having you here, BZ. I really appreciate you calling in.
Thank you ever so much for having me, sir.
Anytime.
You're very kind and gracious.
Anytime. We will be back tomorrow. Same Reaver time, same Reaver station. Yes, I ripped that off. And it was a joy to have everybody here, and hopefully you'll be back tomorrow. And Sugar, I have issues with the computer today, and things are missing where they shouldn't be. I changed commercials up a little bit for something, and there we go. All right, have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow. You've been listening to the Reaver of Common Sense with its host, Jersey Joe. You can tune in every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on hppundit.com and shrmedia.com.